I don't want to rule or conquer anyone.
My main interest is to preserve our democratic institutions.
Whatever the cost may be.
I want to retain the right to vote.
Fight for liberty!
I have the right to speak freely.
We, the people of the United States,
may prosper together.
We shall never surrender.
In the name of democracy, let us all unite!
Hello, everyone. It's me, it's Leo. This is the Progressive Patriots, the best fucking political podcast that has ever existed in the history of politics. It's just the fact of the matter. Let's see. It is currently about 2:45 in the morning on Saturday, October 26th. So, who knows what's happened between now and you listening to this? The world exploded? Who knows? If it has, please let me know. I try my best to look into these things as everything that I talk about. I do my best to be accurate. I look into it as closely as possible. But I'm a human being like anyone else, so if I make a mistake that needs correction, here is a number that goes directly to me. 833-589-7637. If there's something that needs correction, or you just want to give your input on whatever the fuck whatever it is that's on your mind, I'd be more than happy to hear from you. 833-LUXPOTS. All right, first thing that I wanted to talk about was the expanding situation in Ukraine. If you haven't heard by now, North Korea, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, as they like to call themselves, have sent troops. There are currently 12,000 troops that are staging in Russia right now. There's, as I understand it, about 500 officers and 3 flag officers, i.e. generals. Word on the grapevine is that they're going to be moving towards the front in Ukraine sometime today or tomorrow. It's expected to happen throughout the weekend. So 1,500 moving in to fight against Ukraine. From what I've heard, that there are some that are trying to defect from this deployment. So that's it's nice. Good luck on that one, fellas. I'm sure that'll be dealt with very understandingly. One thing about Ukraine that just to the side of it, I guess, I think it runs in parallel pretty closely. There's a recent arms shipment to Taiwan that was pushed through or signed or whatever, approved. And it's what is this? It's NASAMS? I don't know. National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile Systems. And typically, they're only mid-range defense, like, I think, Iron Dome kind of shit. But in this instance, we've included long-range missiles as well. So that's pretty fun. I mention it because this particular weapon system has been tested on the ground in Ukraine. Very effective. So Beijing, mainland China is not happy, as you might expect. But I don't know, man. Sucks to suck. Maybe you shouldn't attack Taiwan. I don't know. They're blaming this on President William Lai. It's his, like, the Western name he's chosen anyway. It's, like, they're calling him like a radical separatist and terrorist, fucking agitator, anti-government agitator, that type of bullshit. Same old shit. But as the situation continues developing in Ukraine, to me, there is no doubt whatsoever, just thinking on the 2024 the election in the U.S., there's no doubt in my mind that if Russia is successful in some way, let's say because Trump is elected again, and this whole I'll have it finished on fucking day one or whatever, like, yeah, because you're gonna tell Zelensky to eat shit, and then you're gonna let Russia take it. You're going to allow them to do it. Now, that is a situation where he's been personally slighted when he asked Zelensky to find a reason to get Hunter Biden in trouble. I'd make it up if you have to kind of situation. And then withheld an arms shipment that had already been it was just pending his rubber stamp, right? And because Zelensky didn't go along with that Hunter Biden shit, I think Trump has a grudge. Obama made some jokes at a correspondence dinner about Trump, and look what happened. Look what happened since. This is a man who's petty, and he holds grudges. He's like a fucking child, man. So there you go. As it pertains to Taiwan, if Trump were to win the election, there would be no doubt in my mind, Ukraine gets essentially run over by Russia after that. I expect Taiwan to be attacked shortly after. And Trump, of course, is not going to help. Why would he? What have the Taiwanese done for me? So why do I care? Yeah, it's a shitty situation. That's, I think, a really good way to summarize it. But that's all I got. Those are just some things I wanted to mention up top before I got into the main thing. So let me take a second here. All right. On to the main thing I wanted to talk about. The U.S. election in 2024. Whole lot of shit, whole lot of moving parts here. There's about a dozen Senate races, and there are so many House races that are highly competitive that they're just being lumped into particular areas. The first Senate, I just wanted to go down the Senate races that I found compelling, just for the funsies, I suppose. In Ohio, Sherrod Brown, seeking re-election, also tries to put a little bit of distance between himself and the Biden administration. He is big working family advocate, consumer protections from banks, and getting manufacturing to return to Ohio. So that's cool. Everything that I've heard about him or heard of him from him, seems like a good guy. Bernie Moreno, on the other hand, his opponent, is just not. I don't think he's a Trump-endorsed candidate, but he is very much a MAGA Republican. He came very young to the U.S. With his parents, he's from Colombia, and whatever, that's not a big deal. But something interesting that I've been able to find out about him is that he often tries to play himself up as like an everyman, humble beginnings, came up, hardworking parents coming up through the struggle, you know what I mean? But his parents are very well connected back in Colombia, well connected with financial ties, political ties, business ties, all that shit. So it makes sense, I guess, that he has some business acumen. He runs a group of car dealerships. So cool, you're a good businessman. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't know, trying to pretend you don't have a silver spoon in your mouth when you were a baby or a youngster, it's pretty silly. Man, just downplay it, I guess, but don't pretend you're something you're not. Moving on to Michigan, Debbie is retiring. God, I cannot pronounce this woman's name. The way I'm thinking is Stabenow. She was a Democrat holding the seat. Alyssa Slotkin is the Democrat moving up from the House, trying to fill the seat now. Interestingly, Stabenow, the current House district that Slotkin is in, is the one Stabenow used to represent, which it's worth pointing out that this is like a purple district. These are people who go where the action is, so to speak. Mike Rogers, the Republican, served in the House until 2015, and he is unretiring to go for this Senate seat. If I read it correctly, if I'm recalling correctly, because I didn't write it down, because I'm very smart and I'm really good at this, Mike Rogers also held the seat before Stabenow did, I believe is the case. I don't want to look that up right now, but regardless, these are the people jockeying for the open Senate seat in Michigan. I should have looked into Slotkin's positions on the situation in Gaza, the fucking crisis in Gaza. Because Michigan, it's no secret, there's a very large group of Arab and Muslim Americans there, and they are absolutely unhappy with the current administration. Very understandably so. So I cannot imagine that Mike Rogers would be too different from your run-of-the-mill Republican, and they're just up their ass over Israel. For Israel, I should say. It's hopefully that Slotkin can put some distance between herself and the administration over that. Moving on, Arizona. I'm very intimately familiar with this one. Kyrsten Sinema retiring as an independent. She ran as a Democrat, elected as a Democrat. I think for 5 of her 6 years was a worked as a Democrat. Now she's retiring as an independent. If I remember, like in her video, her public announcement that she's not seeking re-election, she was saying how mean politics have become, how mean everyone is. Like, do you think that everyone's mean, just being mean in general, or are they just being mean to you? Because I made no effort to hide my displeasure for this woman. When she was running in 2018, her canvassers and some of her staffers were operating out of my house. I offered it to them to give them a spot closer to where the canvassers were going to be working, right? And man, I opened my home to you, you fucking traitor. God. So she's retiring. Politics have become mean. Maybe you shouldn't be such a fucking asshole, and then people won't be mean. Just an idea. I'm not an expert, so who knows? Ruben Gallego moving up from the House. The seat that he's leaving in the House is a pretty safe Democrat seat. So it's one of those situations where the Democratic primary was essentially the actual election, you know? So that's likely going to be... It's going to be Yasemin Ansari, assuming that it's still a safe district. It's pretty likely that she's going to win. It was really close. I think it came down to 42 votes for Raquel Turan that she lost by. So whenever you think my vote doesn't matter, that one was decided by 42. There are others that are decided by even smaller margins. The Republican candidate for this seat is Carrie Lake. She's a fucking moron. That's really all you need to know about her. She's doing her damnedest to be like female Trump. She's one of those ones that's, I imagine that she's very jealous of Laura Loomer, the chick that's banging Trump right now. So there you go. Carrie Lake, dumb fucking idiot. So not much else to say about it. In Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin running for her third term. One of the things, she was the first openly LGBT senator, I'm pretty sure. So that's cool. Eric Hovde. I'm going to Hovde. He's the CEO of a family-owned real estate development company and several regional banks. So again, cool. You have some business acumen. That's nice. But this guy is trying to get into the Senate, and without a fucking doubt, he's going to be going for committee positions on his businesses, which you could say, well, he knows a lot about them. Sure, but from whose perspective does he know about these things? Does he know about these from a consumer protection perspective? From a working family perspective? Or does he know this as a silver spoon turned gold shoved all the way up his own ass perspective? Because he made all of his money on real estate development and banking. Why in the fuck would he ever try to regulate these things? So I don't know. Conflict of interest, man. I don't think this is a good idea. Maybe give him other committee assignments if he were to win. Right. In the House, I had mentioned these things are being grouped into bunches. For example, New York, the House seats that are being talked about are the 4th and 17th districts. New York 4, it was a Biden district by 5 points, but on the same ticket, elected Anthony Desposito, a Republican former cop, or not on the same ticket, in the midterm, I should say, following the crime, fear of crime, migrant crime, Biden migrant crime. You remember that nonsense? But his opponent is Laura Gillen, who ran in 2022 as well, lost by 3 points, so pretty close. So we'll see. Moving along, Pennsylvania is, I think, a little more interesting than Maine. Sorry, guys. 7th District, Susan Wild is currently holding the 7th District seat, and she's running for her 4th term. Every time winning it by like 2 points or less. Ryan McKenzie, currently part of the state legislation, is gonna try to take the seat from her. Oh my God! In Arizona, District 1, Arizona 1, David Schweikart. I've met this guy and I've talked to him. This guy's a fucking weirdo. Amish Shah. He's currently in the state Senate. Schweikart's been in the seat for a long time. If you're in the House, 2-year terms since holding it since 2010, that's a long time. And every time it's fucking like this sounds like a super awesome candidate, and it never pans out. Part of Schweikart's district is Fountain Hills. For the uninitiated, it's a very wealthy part. It's MAGA country. It's like suburban country club Republicans, suburban MAGA country club types. I went to Fountain Hills for a little town hall of his, and it was an interesting affair. But I'll talk about that another time, I suppose. The district that has Tucson, so it's like South Central. Siscomani is the incumbent. He's also a piece of shit. So Kirsten Engel is a state level senator. Ran against him 2 years ago, lost by 2 points. And this is like a border, part of the Arizona-Mexico border. So this is the place where all of the alleged fucking migrant waves are coming. You'd think it's like that World War Z movie. There's so many of them coming that they just like climb on top of each other. It's not how it is. It's not happening. There's other stuff, but whatever. On the presidential part, there's a few things that have been going around that I wanted to really impart on everyone. Something that I'm sure a lot of you have heard by now, but like John Kelly is a 4-star general, Marine general. In that phone interview he did, where he described Trump as meeting the textbook definition of a fascist. Mark Milley, I read this man's book. This dude is neither of these guys are by any means some hardcore fucking radical liberals of any sort. Not even fucking close. John Kelly was totally on board with like Trump's just crazy border policy. Like he was all for it. And Mark Milley, I don't know. I'm not sure how people are getting. It really bothers me hearing people say just the Trump derangement syndrome. It's odd to me because there's a quote that I'm going to share in a moment, but it's actually kind of related to the Trump derangement syndrome, or like the bitter former employees type of thing. Like I don't think that's it, because like John Kelly is not out here tap dancing for abortion. Mark Milley isn't talking about Green New Deal or green energy, you know? These guys are really speaking from a position of knowing, of experience, of an educated position. I know that it's easy to dismiss like these kinds of things because of how ridiculous Trump is and how to describe his behavior anymore. He's coming up on 80 years old, and he's fucking losing it. He's the same way that that Biden was losing it. Well, not the same way, but they're both fucking losing it. They're old. They're old men. This is what happens. Your brain fucking melts. It just happens with age. But at the same time, like, to act like these descriptions of him are still valid, because while he might be going off the rails a bit, the third rail is still very live. That is to say, his darkest impulses, the most deranged, darkest things that he wants. A good example of his sentiments are that soldier, the female soldier that was murdered, and the burial costs were like $60,000. And his reaction to that was, it doesn't cost $60,000 to bury a fucking Mexican. That's how much it would cost to bury any service member. Like, that is the cost of that, of anyone. Doesn't matter if they're a fucking Mexican or a fucking black person or a fucking white person. Doesn't matter what fucking color they are. If you're in a military burial, like with full honors and everything, is not cheap. First of all, I'm not sure why you're surprised, but I don't think you were surprised. It's just the fucking Mexican, right? So we don't need to spend that much. Just dig a hole and throw her in, right? That is the lens through which he views us. I mean, working class people. We do not matter to this man. We don't. These glimpses into the inner circle should be cause for concern for anyone that hears them. These glimpses into the inner circle, they worry me the most, because these are the things that he says in confidence, right? He says this to people that he expects or assumes are on his, like, would agree with him or are on his side about things, or at the very least aren't going to ever reveal it to anyone. There's this little dramatization. It's like a 2-part series. It's called The Rise of Evil. And it's the rise of Hitler from his beginnings up to the point where he assumes power. It doesn't go into the World War II shit. It doesn't go into Nazi Germany beyond him being sworn in as the chancellor. So I just rewatched it, and listening to the speeches that I'm gonna get his name because he's really good. I think it's like Robert Carlyle. Yep, Robert Carlyle. So he plays Hitler, and the speeches are like just translated versions, right? Translated versions of transcripts and things. It's not very dissimilar. All of these speeches during his rise, blaming Jews, blaming communists, blaming anyone and everyone around them. All you really got to do is swap in a group that Trump doesn't like. Like, if you just blame Mexicans, any flavor of Mexican, to be even more like racist about it, it's not that dissimilar from what I'm seeing it as I rewatch this. I always found this drama series really, it was always interesting to me. Like in high school, I remember one it was a history class of some kind, and it was like the question, everybody went around the room. Just where I sat, based on where I sat, I was one of the last ones to go. But the question went around the room, like, what famous figure would you want to meet and why? And when it got to me, I said I would like to meet Hitler. And everyone's like, oh, well, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I want to see how that happened. How is it that this little fucking shrimp was able to get a whole country behind him into murdering millions of people? How does that happen? How the fuck does that happen? And man, I was beside myself as I went through the rewatch, just hearing parallels, man. Just history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it fucking rhymes. It's the same shit. A lot of the things that he said, that Robert Carlyle says in the series in character, are very reminiscent of what we hear from Trump. And what is difficult about it is, like, in the first Trump presidency, like, we had there, like, the so-called guardrails and the so-called adults in the room, like a John Kelly, who, while he might be a bit of a dickhead himself, he is at least like a within the confines of the law kind of dickhead. You know what I mean? Mark Milley, kind of in that same vein. James Mattis, General Mattis, was the Secretary of Defense. Same thing. As far as I can tell, he's not quite a dickhead. He's just like a rule of law kind of guy. What I appreciate is that Mark Milley, in his post retirement, his like little farewell address, he said that we in the military, we swear to uphold the Constitution. We swear ourselves to that. We swear loyalty to the Constitution, not to anyone else, not to any person. There's no kings, no queens, no emperors, no dictators, and then pointedly he said, or wannabe dictators, clearly referencing Trump and his just obsession with he wants to be a dictator. He wants to be an autocrat. He says the type of shit all the time, like, oh, they're doing things right over in fucking China, the way the government surveils and cracks down on any dissidents. Same thing in Russia, even more openly and brazenly violent versus China, that they just kind of like make you disappear. Not sure which I'd prefer, to be honest with you. And the guardrails are gone, right? There aren't any anymore, because he's surrounding himself with people like J.D. Vance, who just recently was talking about how much he pined for, just longing for a return to the good old days of America, and the need, if needed, overthrowing things. It was a very clear word, like overthrowing institutions and overthrowing governmental norms for the sake of reestablishing those things. It was really obvious what he was talking about. It was just like Project 2025 shit. Back when you pesky colored people and pesky women, you all knew your place. Right? That's what they're hoping for. That's what they want. I think Gilead is a good description of that. That's what they're hoping for. That's what they're aiming for. It's easy to look at Trump putting fucking fries into a bag and handing it to an actor and saying, this guy's a clown. He can say whatever he wants. I am not going to use the Maya Angelou quote, because just everyone is using that one right now, and it's getting a little bit tired. But they say it outright. I don't know why people are going out of their way to not believe it. I don't know. But so it's also come out that Trump has openly praised Hitler, in that he did some good things. He did good things for Germany, and it wasn't all bad. And So I got this quote. One of the characters that I saw in The Rise of Evil, it's a journalist that was he was working like around at the same time that Hitler was rising up. So this is a bit that he wrote, and I just really, really liked it. And we all know the one of like all that it takes for evil to triumph is good men do nothing, right? It's similar. It's along that line, but here we go. Quote, history has brought us to the edge of chaos, and now we have a choice. Either we can jump into the abyss, or, with courage and faith, leap to the other side. The abyss is Hitler's party of National Socialism, a party of intolerance and hatred, false imagery and false hope, a pit of nonsense and outright lies. He's an agitator who believes our fears will drown out our reason. And the worst we can do, the absolute worst, is to do nothing. Ooh, gave me chills reading that. I'm not exaggerating. That's good. So his name is Fritz Michael Gerlich. This was published circa 1923. So, like I said, he was a journalist in Germany. He was an anti-Nazi, like free speech, free press sort of guy, of course. He was born in Stettin, Germany, February 15th, 1883. Executed June 30th, 1934. There wasn't even a pretend trial or fake trumped up charges. He was just executed for speaking against the Nazi Party. He was as to use Trump's phrase, he was considered the enemy within. If I had said instead, the abyss is Trump's party of hard right republicanism. Otherwise, is that saying at all no longer applicable if I swap in Trump's party of MAGA nationalism? Yeah, my man Fritz went down swinging. I don't know. I really like this saying of his. I'm gonna try to spread it as much as I can. Hopefully you do too. That's a man who stood on business. You know what I mean? Because even when the chips were down and it was really obvious that the Nazis were taking over, he could have stopped. He absolutely could have stopped and just kept his head down and lived his life. Tip of the hat, Mr. Gerlich. So when he got fired from his newspaper, he went on to start publishing like a personal newsletter. It's called The Straight Path. Shit. I had it in German, but I forgot it. I'm sorry. Sorry, Big Fritz. You're still the man, though. All right. I'm going to take a second here, and we'll wrap it up. All right. Last things. The situation surrounding Israel. So Israel is starting to attack Iran openly. Iran is retaliating despite the Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, he's urging Iran not to retaliate. It's like, so what? Israel's just allowed to bomb Iran with impunity? It's fucking ridiculous. Iran continues to insist that nothing serious has been damaged or anything or destroyed. So I don't know. Take that for what you will. Let's see. The IDF attacks in Lebanon so far, 2,500 are dead. 3 journalists, foreign journalists, and 2 UN peacekeeping workers were killed as well. 1.2 million people they've had their homes destroyed, and they have nowhere to go. This is a feature. This is not a bug. These people they're being displaced, very intently. In Gaza, the death toll is approaching 43,000. the overwhelming majority of which were elderly women and children. They're so Yahya, I think that's how you say it, Yahya Sinwar. He's one of the key orchestrators of October 7th, of the attacks on October 7th. He was killed on October 22nd. The leadership of within the IDF were quoted as saying there's no point to staying in Gaza anymore now that Sinwar's dead. So what's been happening is troops have been moved from Gaza to the northern parts of Israel to attack Hezbollah in Lebanon. And thus, Hamas has been conducting what they're calling hit and run raids. This is counterinsurgency. Israel, like leaving forces, like moving forces out of Gaza where they were supposed to be before they shifted the goalposts, and that was like us moving troops out of Afghanistan into Iraq. Like that's kind of what's happening here. Gaza is now counterinsurgency. Israel has no exit strategy. There's no plan to leave. Settler attacks in the West Bank are getting more and more violent, and it's not just like get the fuck out of this house, I'm taking it over. It's killing people, brutally harming people, destroying people's livelihoods, like olive orchards are being destroyed. And yeah, they're doing it. Like what can the people in the West Bank do? What can they do? Because they're gonna keep getting pushed like this. And then it's just, please mark my words, if this keeps going like this, somebody in the West Bank is gonna they've had enough, and they're going to strike back. And then we're gonna be in this situation that we've been in with Gaza all over again. Hearing non-stop about how all of the settler violence does not justify a West Bank Palestinian striking back, but that strike back does gives permission to murder everyone in the West Bank. This is how it's going to develop. I have been in a counterinsurgency. That's in Afghanistan. That was what we were doing. That's what the war was. It was a counterinsurgency. That's how this is going to develop. There's no plans for them to leave. I saw this video, which I don't recommend going to look for it. Just this description is going to be bad enough. So there's this kid who's 19, just about to be 20. Sha'aban al-Dalau is his name, and he was like documenting the journey he and his family were taking, trying to avoid, getting killed, right? And at one point they were hiding out, I believe, in a mosque that was bombed, and Shaban was pretty seriously hurt. Like, he had a really bad head injury, so he was, not able to move very well. He was really like woozy and dazed. Didn't really have his motor functions about him. So he and his family, they make it to like a refugee camp, and he's in the medical tent getting care that he needs, and a firebomb is dropped on the refugee camp. And in the video, you can see that you see everything burning, and you see him like trying to get up out of the bed that he's in, and he can't. You can see pretty clearly that the bed he's in, and probably him, they're on fire. Sha'aban was burning alive. God, it's difficult to. This needs to stop. I don't know what the fuck Harris is waiting for, but there needs to be some separation between her and Biden. I know that there's an attempt to not be too, I don't know, to be too down or too hard on the administration because she's a fucking part of it. But this, what the fuck is this? You shouldn't have to see somebody burning alive, just physically unable to escape or get away from it in any way. You shouldn't have to see these kinds of things. And you sure as fuck shouldn't hear about these kinds of things and then say, well, we need to remember October 7th. I'm sorry. No, that's not what we're talking about right now. That isn't to say that it wasn't horrible. That is not at all to say that that was justifiable or acceptable or in any way good, because it wasn't. It isn't. How on earth are we seeing these things and then still contributing to this? I'm trying my best. From my end, you can also do the same. I highly, highly, highly encourage you. Of course, vote like your fucking heart is on the paper, man. Call the people you can, people who can do something, and tell them to do so. Like, call your representatives, call your senators, tell them, I'm your constituent, this shit needs to stop. I don't give a fuck how much Biden wants to have Israel up his ass. I don't care. I do not give a shit. This needs to stop. God damn it. Fuck. Let me get some. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Progressive Patriots, a Lux Media production. If you'd like to give your thoughts on what we discussed, or if there's something that needs correction, you can text our anonymous line at 833-589-7637. If you think you're entertaining and informative, call and leave a voice message, and we'll see if you make the final release. 833-LUX-PODS. You can't go wrong. If you prefer to hit us up on social media, the account name is LVXMediaNet, all one word. That's on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and all the rest of that shit. If you can't find us, chances are we're not on it. A lot of stuff gets cut out from the final releases for all kinds of reasons. So if you want the raw audio, exactly as it's recorded, look us up on Patreon, LVXMediaNet, over there just like everywhere else. Even if you don't sign up on Patreon, you can still help us out a lot if you hit us with a rating on whatever app you're listening on. If you're not feeling a $5, you have our number, or you can slide into the DMs. Let us know how we can earn that full $5. Intro and outro by Middle of Nowhere Beats. And for more shows like the one you just listened to, go to lvxmedia.net. Fucking outro plugs and stuff. That was pre-recorded, so hopefully it doesn't sound... The brighter tone isn't off-putting. All right, so typically parting words, it's something that I do for all of the shows, but it's usually better when when other people are on them, right? So my parting words for a bit of positivity, I guess. Today being the 26th, later today, UFC 308 is happening. That should be pretty fun. If you want to hear more about it, I recommend going to check out the other show that we have, Ultimate F and Casual. Wherever you're listening to this, Ultimate F and Casual will be there. So that's a fun one. I think that's it. So thanks for going on this little fucking what are they called? Weaves? We went on a weave today, baby. So I will see you probably on the other side of the election, maybe just before. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But take care of yourselves. Take care of your people. Fucking love people. See you.
To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair.
No dictatorship can exist with suffrage, freedom of speech and press.
The misery that is now upon us is the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. Life can be free and beautiful. The hate of men will pass, and the power they took from the people will return to the people.